Secondly, along with calling and training them, this is a time where he gradually and in a growing way begins to reveal who he is. And this is what the miracles are all about. The miracles were signs that were intended to reveal who Jesus is. And so there's a growing revelation of who this guy is. So this is a period of time where Jesus is he's doing miracles. He's healing people. He is delivering people from demonic oppression, and he's demonstrating that he has power over nature. He walks on water. He turns water into wine. And so all of these things are a time of growing revelation of who he is, and he's teaching crowds. This is the period of time when his popularity grows and peaks. Multitudes come to hear this guy. I mean, he's giving out free lunches. So, it's like, he's like, for one thing, the scriptures prophesy that he would be anointed with the oil of joy above all of his companions. My sense is that Jesus Christ was the most charismatic, joyful human being that ever lived on the face of the planet, and that people were just drawn to him. Now, the scriptures also seem to indicate that there was nothing necessarily physically attractive about him that drew people, but it was who he was, and that somehow he was like a people magnet. They were drawn to him, and so you have growing popularity. He's teaching, he's telling parables, he's explaining parables, he's teaching how to live. Sermon on the Mount takes place during this time. He's helping people understand the difference between true faith and religiosity, and all of this going on, growing popularity, but at the same time, as the multitudes are growing fond of him, the religious leaders are beginning to grow in their opposition of him. And so all of this begins to peak as we come to the end of this period of 1.5 to 2 years. Lots and lots of drama. That period of ministry, so again, and they're back and forth, by the way. And as you read, you'll see, they're down in Jerusalem for the feast. They're back up into to Galilee. They're traveling to villages in town, and Jesus is teaching, preaching, healing, all of the things we've talked about. But there comes this period of time where the hostility, the heat is hot enough that they make the decision that they're leaving Galilee, and they enter into the third period of ministry, where they cross over onto the other side of the Sea of Galilee and the Jordan River into a region called the Decapolis and Perea, and this is usually referred to as the Perean period of ministry, and this is only recorded primarily recorded in the Gospel of Luke, and it's confusing because already as he transitions out of this period of popularity that's now leading to growing hostility, we've already been told that he has set his face toward Jerusalem. And so, again, you can see it geographically. It's as if a big circle is going to be made. Let's go over here. So, we start out down here in Judea. We go through Samaria, we head up to Galilee. We now come over into the region of Perea, the Decapolis over here. But from the point that he begins to cross over, I don't know if are you with me on this? There's this whole flow, not only material and chronology, but it's like, he's hit this peak of popularity. And by the way, the transitional event is when he asks the disciples, "Who do people say I am?" And they give him a variety of answers, where some people say, you're a great teacher, prophet, you're Elijah, come back, and all this. And then, he asks the question that, a gazillion sermons have been preached on, because it's the question, in a sense, he asks all of us. Who do you say that I am? And that's where Peter makes his great confession. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus says to him, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but the Spirit of God has made this known. And you know what he begins instantly to do? It's kind of like they get it. They get it, okay? They've seen me do all this. They've witnessed all of this. They know who I am, and immediately he begins to tell them that he's got to go to Jerusalem, suffer, be crucified, and rise on the third day. And in part of that transition, of course, Peter says, never, Lord. And that's the infamous get thee behind me, Satan moment with Peter. But transition taking place, he's heading to Jerusalem. He knows what he's got to do. And so during this period of the Perean ministry, and also into kind of this fourth period, which is called the later Judean period. So, up, around, down, around this side, and down and across and back into Judea. It's like a big circle has taken place. And there is some confusion. Just it's sort of this back and forth time between either side of the Jordan River. He's kind of bouncing back and forth, and it's a little confusing. But if you can kind of again get the geography and the flow of it, the Perean period and the later Judean period is the time when the multitudes shrink to small groups because Jesus is no longer feeding the 5,000. He's saying things like, if you want to follow me, you got to take up your cross and die daily. I mean, he starts giving the hard teachings, and the tougher the teaching becomes, and the more the opposition is growing against him, the smaller the crowds become. And again, with this single focus of heading toward Jerusalem, which then becomes the third scene.